Welcome back to another edition of What Color Will Steve's Skin Be when this finally gets exported? Because to be honest, I look really good right now, but I have no idea. Also coming up, we're going to talk about an extortion update if you watched last week's program. More illegal Jamaicans in the news doing illegal things. And we'll talk about the fundraising I just did. We had a 100% matching situation going on over the weekend, and we did pretty well. We'll give you a little bit of an update. We've also got a report from a different site about a triggered lefty that's just too good not to share. And we'll see what else happens. GrokTALK's brought to you by GraniteGrok.com and Grok Media LLC, and it starts in less than 60 seconds. New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for GraniteGrok, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you. All right, welcome to the program. We've always got plenty of things going on. We could be talking about Trump and Putin in Alaska. We could be talking about Zelensky having to visit the White House today to talk about what Trump and Putin, or Putin, I don't even know how to say that, talked about in Alaska. I think we can generalize that, even though we're not going to cover the subject, into saying that nobody wants to surrender and nobody wants to give up any land, and things are going to continue as they were until somebody does. So anyway, I didn't tease that at all, but it's pretty big news right now. So I wanted to give you an extortion update. I had mentioned on last week's program that a group called Pick Rights was extorting me for a vast sum of money that I didn't have to pay for using or sharing improperly without a license some images. Turns out it was there were two different situations there. One was with Reuters and one was with Associated Press. And I'd put all the blame on the AP. Not that they don't deserve it, but that wasn't true. So anyway, I sent them a message and talked about the things that I mentioned last week about how, I asked about a license and it was about $25 a pick. And, they were asking for $350. So anyway, we negotiated that down significantly. That situation has been resolved. But while I was in the process of deciding whether or not to actually pay them, which I would have to have done anyway, because we really did use those images without a license. I don't know who. I don't care. It happened. It's over. I reached out to the New Hampshire Department of Justice. I think it's the Division of Consumer Product something. Anyway, what they do is if you have an issue with somebody and you think you're being screwed, or in my case, extorted, you can send them a little message. And they have a form that they'd like you to fill out. You can't just email them. You have to send them a form. So I go to fill out the form. And because the office address of the Pick Rights that was coming after me was in Canada, I couldn't fill out the form because you have to put in the business address or the mailing address of the institution with whom you are filing your complaint. You cannot put a Canadian zip code on that form. Now, arguably, maybe because it's not in New Hampshire, the New Hampshire DOJ can't do a damn thing about it. But I thought it was suspicious and interesting. And, they like to go after big tobacco and big this and big that. New Hampshire's famous for jackpot justice. If there's a huge payout, they want to be a part of it. Doesn't matter who it screws, even if all the costs are passed. And the customers are like, we just want the money. So I thought, they might be interested, right? But I couldn't fill the form out. So I sent them an email with some details, at the beginning of which I said, this is why I can't fill out your form. So a day or two goes by. I've already resolved the situation with Pick Rights because there was a deadline for that, and I didn't want to go too far. And we did manage to negotiate things down, and there's a story in there that I'll tell you in a second. And they send me this nice, really, really long email that says, thank you for your interest. If you would like to file a claim, you have to fill out the form online. Really? Did you not read what I wrote you? The first damn thing I wrote was I can't fill out your form. And they told me to fill out the form. So I went back to the form. You still can't fill it out. So anyway, that ship has temporarily sailed. We'll see about that later. And here's why. So I told you about the $25 an image, and I told you about the $350 an image, and I told you about how I couldn't pay that, and I told them. So anyway, after I sent them this email about that, all that good stuff, they sent me an email back saying, well, you know, we can't give you a license for any price, and it doesn't matter what they would offer you as a new deal because we don't set the rates. So what he was basically saying is that Reuters and AP said, if you go after people for unlicensed images, you have to charge them this much. I don't believe them, because after they went through this whole legalese sounding, we don't really have any room to wiggle, they wiggled a lot. Literally, having said that, we accept your compromise. Some, they use different language than that, but they basically said, yeah, we're good with this. Just here's the updated information. Here are the links to pay it online. So, no, we can't do anything, but yeah, sure. And I'm thinking, just I should have said I was willing to pay them a lot less. I wonder if they would have said yes. But lesson learned, we are being very diligent about any image that is being proposed or added to the library. And that's what everybody should do. So, I've told a few people, and I'll tell you guys, if you're putting images online, make sure they're stock photos that are royalty-free. And there are lots of places you can get them. And if anybody else is posting content on your platform, please make sure it's because there's big money to be made going after little websites or medium websites or any size websites. I'm sure they've gone after larger ones too. And they make their fortune on that. So, and then if you don't pay them, they, call up the lawyer that they have on the hook, which in this case is Higbee and Associates. And they threaten you with a bunch of stuff. And then at some point, you have to pay a lawyer to threaten them back. And it gets really expensive quick, especially if you end up going to court. So let's not go there. There's better things to talk about. So we've had a lot of Jamaicans in the news recently. It's really kind of weird. Let me see if I can pull this up here. So a couple of weeks back, July 31st, 2025, I put a post up called How Many More Illegals Are Voting in Manchester? An illegal alien had been busted by Attorney General John Formella's office, the New Hampshire AG. A Nassif Bryan of Manchester was arrested and charged with 3 Class B felony counts of wrongful voting, contrary to RSA 659-34-1E. So he's a citizen of Jamaica. He is here. He overstayed illegally. He's not supposed to be here. And he was registered to vote in Manchester, New Hampshire. And he voted a bunch of times. And after the first time, which was the one where they actually registered him and shouldn't have, everybody was like, oh, well, he was already on the rolls and we didn't know. And, we followed the law at the time. And it was, I basically called bullshit. You can read the article if you want to. It won't go into great details. Anyway, Nassif Bryan of Manchester, arrested, charged with 3 Class B felony counts. Probably won't amount to much because it rarely ever does in the state of New Hampshire. So we have also, if I can find it, because I have way too many tabs open as usual. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then July 31st, same day, later that same day. John Luke Evans reportedly arrived legally in 2023 in Miami, but overstayed his legal welcome. So in 2023, he enters the country in Miami legally, visa something, ends up in Maine, and he was a police officer. Old Orchard Beach, Maine, hired him to be a cop. So he had a service revolver, uniform, by all accounts, decent guy, great coworker, good cop. Haven't heard anything to the contrary. Shockingly, Evans was employed as a local law enforcement officer. The fact that a police department would hire an illegal alien and unlawfully issue him a firearm while on duty would be comical if it weren't so tragic. We have a police department that was knowingly breaking the very law they are charged with enforcing in order to employ an illegal alien. ICE Boston will continue to prioritize public safety, blah, 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 blah. So he goes to fill out his firearms form, for his background check, and the dude's illegal. He's not supposed to be here. He can't get a firearm. And he's in trouble now. He's going to get deported. So that's number 2. Wait, we're not done yet. Would-be gun buyer denies he lied about immigration status. When I first saw this is over at Vermont Daily Chronicle, our good friends over there, Guy Page. Go check them out when you have time if you want to read about lots of Vermont stuff. It's a good deal. And would-be gun buyer denies he lied about immigration status. So a Jamaican man pled innocent on August 8th in federal court for lying about his immigration status when trying to buy a gun. Authorities say that on June 26th, the federal grand jury returned an indictment charging Alex Dwayne Bignell, 30, of Jamaica, with lying about his immigration status while attempting to purchase a firearm and attempting to receive a firearm, knowing that such receipt would be a felony. So he fills out the form. He checks the part where it says, I'm a U.S. citizen, not an illegal alien. And he says he didn't lie. But why? According to court records in the summer of 2023, Bignell, who did not have legal status in the United States, attempted to buy a Taurus 9mm firearm from a federal firearms licensee in Vermont. In connection with that attempted purchase, Bignell filled out a form swearing under oath that he was not an alien, illegally and unlawfully in the United States. So he's going home, I would think. I know they say here he faces up to 15 years if convicted, but a lot of times we just kick them out, right? Because, they came here for whatever reason. And then you give them room in a bed with some very pleasant people in prison for 15 years. In some cases, maybe not in this case, but in some cases, that's still better than the life they had before they came here. So you're really just doing them a favor and at taxpayer expense. So, okay, so enough about the illegal Jamaicans. We do await the next one. That's, 3 in like a couple of weeks. It seems like a popular thing right now. Everybody would be like, the left would be like, hey, you're being racist going after Jamaican. Wow, we're being racist going after everybody, right? Isn't that the deal? So, all right. So fundraising. We had a fundraiser. Very, very nice individual in New England offered to 100% match donations to GraniteGrok.com. Grok Media LLC. Grok Media LLC owns GraniteGrok.com. It's the same company, but the bank account is Grok Media LLC. If you write us a check, please make it out to Grok Media LLC. Did I say that enough times yet? Okay. We ran it for from Wednesday to Sunday, so it ended Sunday. And the goal was to raise as much goddamn money as we could, and we didn't do bad. I was hoping for more, aren't I always? Because I wanted to try to fund the rest of this year and part of next year. So we didn't quite get this year's total, but I'm waiting for some checks to come in. People who emailed me and said, I wanted to count. I'm telling you today, it's within the Wednesday to Sunday window. And I said, that's fine. Just, put that date on it. Send me the check. We have some checks still in transit, 4 or 5. I don't know how many. But we're going to get pretty darn close to our goal of raising $20,000 to finish funding the rest of this year. And I think if I manage things correctly, I can probably squeeze myself into 2026. But we will have to raise some more money. And we do need some more very generous donors. Now, to all the people who did donate, thank you very, very much. We had some folks who had already given this year who were very generous. And I think all our readers need to thank them. I thank you because it gives me the opportunity to keep paying all the services and fees that come with running a website and a small business. And we can't do it without you guys. So we appreciate you reading and donating. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Another way we make money is we put up ads for people. Right now, if you go to GraniteGrok.com and you click on a post, we don't put ads on the homepage. Although if you are part of the mobile experience, you will see some pop up on the bottom. We don't make a lot of money on those because we don't want a ton of ads. And because it clutters up the space, and most websites beat the crap out of you with ads. Pop-ups, sign-ups, register, VIP, and then there's more ads. Anyway, we don't have any of that. Right now, we do have an ad for Camp Constitution. They are sponsoring a Freedom Walk in October. You can see it on the right sidebar. You can click on that and get more information. And talk to Hal Shurtleff, who runs Camp Constitution. We've got our standard Amazon ad because we're an affiliate and we make a little money on that. And people shop at Amazon. And I would rather you just instead of spending $25 on a shirt and a mug or whatever, just give it to us. But people buy stuff, and if you want to buy from Amazon, we'd appreciate it if you went through the Amazon ad on our page, so we, get a couple nickels and dimes. It helps things out. I've also got something up here for the 603 Alliance. They're celebrating their 10th anniversary on the 27th of September at Russell Prescott's Barn in Kingston. There is a ticket price associated with that because feeding all those people is not free. And they also fundraise and they work off donations. So if they gave all their donations away to feed people who came to celebrate their 10th anniversary, they wouldn't have an 11th anniversary. But we want to keep having one of those. I am on the board of directors. So by all means, please support us. We've also got some various stuff on there from like Clap, which is turning videos into clips. We are also part of the affiliate program for Patriot, My Patriot Supply, emergency food. If that's a thing you're into, you can click on that. We'd be very excited to have you do your business through us. Something I didn't tease in the introduction, which broke earlier, late last week, I think it was. And so if you remember, in Vermont, a Border Patrol agent was basically hijacked, shot, and killed. And the trigger mall for that little bit of nastiness was a young lady named Teresa Youngblood, 21, from Seattle. Not from here, right? But Vermont, Seattle, Burlington, there's a lot of similarities, especially mentally. See, here's the thing. Elected Democrats, Democrats in office, Democrats in Vermont, New Hampshire, Washington, D.C., all those fun places have been saying, bad things about ICE agents, mean things about ICE agents. They've been riling up people to protest. Some have even said things like, you need to kill those ICE agents. Well, here we have young Teresa, 21 years old, from Seattle. And she took them literally. She came to Vermont, shot and killed a ICE agent, Border Patrol agent. She was arrested. We reported on that. Everybody did. And now the Attorney General and the AUSA are saying, we're going to ask for the death penalty. You kill a Border Patrol agent, we're going to kill you. And the circumstances seem pretty legitimate. Capital punishment's pretty harsh, pretty extreme. A lot of people don't like it. I'm still wrestling with the idea as somebody who supports life for all sorts of reasons. And but I'm not quite there yet on the death penalty. She literally planned and executed the death of an ICE agent, probably because lots of Democrats were saying, you should kill him, or something very close to that. Close enough that they might even be implicated. Not that they'll take credit for successfully ending the life of some guy who they say is going to kidnap people who are actually here illegally and committing crimes. But they won't suffer any consequences for it. Probably not personally or electorally, although the latter would be better. So they're going to charge her with, what have they charged her with? Okay, it was shortly after 2 p.m. that Acting U.S. Attorney Michael P. Drescher filed in U.S. District Court a 3-page notice of intent to seek the death penalty. This marks the first time a charging document in the court case identified Youngblood as the shooter. Earlier speculation indicated it was her because she pulled her gun and fired twice, records show. Well, look at that. She fired the gun, and now they think she's the shooter. The new indictment adds 2 new felony charges and modifies an earlier count to claim assaults on 2 other Border Patrol agents during the incident. One new count charges Youngblood with malice aforethought, unlawfully killed Mayland, the officer who died, by shooting him while he was engaged in the performance of his duties. The second new charge maintains Youngblood carried a firearm during a crime of violence, the murder alleged in count 1 of the new indictment. Anyway, so that's in the news, also relatively local, and we're going to start closing some stuff, so I'm not clicking tabs that I don't need. Click. All right, nutty, crazy left-wingers. So over on a website called Stately McDaniel Manor, we have a commentary called Dems Will Attract Republicans with Obscene Rants and Name-Calling. That's always how they've done it. All right, here we go. Among the most bizarre tactics they've adopted is to try to stiffen their base and attract normal Americans, you know, the deplorables of flyover country, by being perpetually outraged, shouting incoherently, using the F word as every part of speech loudly and angrily as possible. They claim this will show their base they are fighting Trump, and presumably the normal Americans they want to welcome back to the fold. They apparently think normal Americans always use the F word as every part of speech and are therefore attracted to politicians who hate them and America, who also say fuck as every part of speech. Oh yes, and everything and everyone with whom they disagree is also a racist, Nazi, white supremacist, MAGA insurrectionist, etc., poopy-faced Trump lover. Perhaps the best example of this ethic this past week, one Lauren Welch, who is said to be a popular Dem influencer. I must admit, before reading about her at Legal Insurrection, I'd never heard of her or seen her. Neither have I. But this is funny, so here we go. Quote, the apparently popular and influential progressive host of the I've Had It podcast, Lauren Welch, blasted white triple Trumpers, those who voted for President Trump 3 times, for enjoying the benefits of multiculturalism. In a scathing, profanity-laced discussion with her equally offensive co-host Angie Pumps Sullivan, Welch said she can't believe they have the fucking nerve to even walk into a Mexican restaurant. Really? Welch said she had recently dined in a Mexican restaurant with her family, and there was just all those MAGA-looking people in there, crinkling her nose in utter disgust. She added, you've got a lot of fucking nerve coming in here. So this is the cultural appropriation thing. See, we are supposed to do, this is the interesting part, we're supposed to embrace multiculturalism while not pretending to embrace multiculturalism. So, you know, you give you an example. A couple of years back, guy wore a sombrero to I think it was a Halloween party at UNH, and a bunch of people got offended. And at some point, I think it might have been Keene, but it happened in both colleges. Keene had one too. Same reason. Some triggered college lefties lost their shit because somebody showed up in a costume that they thought was culturally inappropriate. They had riots over it. That's how nutty they are. I mean, maybe she went to UNH or Keene or clearly some college like it. So you're not allowed to enjoy the benefits of multiculturalism because you're a crazy white supremacist MAGA Nazi. That's how they see you. You shouldn't be making Mexican food if you're not Mexican, apparently, or if you're not them. See, if you're them, you pretend to care. You act like you are multicultural, and you really don't give a damn. I think we've covered this in GraniteGrok long enough. Anybody who hasn't heard it yet, they're using you. You are a piece of meat, a pawn on a board, just like they've treated blacks and women and children. And teachers will find this out the hard way if they haven't already. And illegal immigrants who are more likely to be subject to, regarding illegal immigrants. Legal immigrants in immigrant communities, including illegals who were here peacefully, are more likely to be mistreated, subject to crime, abuse, murder, rape, and death from illegal criminals than they are from those so-called white, MAGA, racist Nazis. That didn't come out the way I planned it to, but I'm just kind of winging it. I need to practice doing this. Apparently, this is something I'm supposed to do, and I'm not very good at it, so I'm going to keep doing it until I get better. So, a typical white liberal, she's probably an AWFL, and she's bitching and moaning about how people who she thinks, now this is her perception, and we know she's wrong, America is for everyone who comes here legally. And we embrace that culture, and you know that too, because you've seen it. If you go to Miami, there are tens of thousands of legal Cubans who are here, who are good citizens, who love America, who oppose illegal immigration from South America and Cuba and everywhere else. And they brought their culture with them. They brought their music. They brought their food. Same thing for the Mexicans and others who came here legally, the Italians, the Germans, everybody, the English. Not so much food with the English, but I'm part English. I can say that. They came here legally. They did the right thing. They worked hard. They didn't go on welfare. They lifted themselves up with nothing to become something, and they brought their culture with us to enrich us all. And that includes great food, some awesome music, history, stories, myths, everything. That's the melting pot. It's not just a random displacement process created to water down the votes of people who actually did it the right way, including millions of immigrants who came here legally, whose vote is diluted by people who are coming here illegally. So this witch basically says, how dare you? And it's amusing because this is entirely her perception of who you are. She doesn't even know. She may not know a single actual Republican or one that voted for Donald Trump or one that understands why Democrats and black men and Hispanics started voting. Oh, they're just sexist, snobby heathens, you know, man-spreading, mansplaining, whatever. That's the world she lives in. And that's pretty sad because she must be better. I mean, maybe her podcast's popular. I hope it is. You know, you gotta eat, right? But that's just, I just think that's hilarious because she has no clue what it's really like to be you or I or anybody else because she probably doesn't know anybody like that. All right, so what else? Oh, one more bit of news that kind of popped up on the radar. I've been thinking about this for a while. People like to use my email to sign me up for stuff. They'll take, you know, because my email's readily available, steve@GraniteGrok.com. I just gave it to you again. And they sign me up for email lists. Some pretty interesting email lists. I'll see if I can make a list and share it with you sometime because it's kind of amusing. You know, queer stuff, things they think that'll offend me. I think it's a blast. It's a great way to get free information about possible topics for blogs. I get lots of, you know, you're on a lot of spam lists, so you end up with all these email lists anyway that you end up on, especially as elections come closer. You find yourself having to deal with every single candidate's email list. And it's just part of my daily routine. Excuse me. I just go in and unsubscribe from them unless I think it has potential to provide some value to my readers. And so I don't give a shit. You can keep doing it. People keep signing me up for stuff. I get, please confirm your subscription. No, I'm good. Thanks. You know, it's just part of my day to day, which includes figuring out how to come up with a podcast idea every week. I do these Monday afternoon, by the way, because I just kind of, you know, put them off and let it sit and stir and stew. And then here I am just babbling endlessly into a microphone, which is probably more interesting than if I'd planned it out ahead. I do want to get some guests back on the program because I like guests talking more than me, as I've said before, but the last 2 weeks should be like, no, that doesn't sound like you at all. You've been just talking your full head off. And I have. So anyway, GraniteGrok.com is brought to you by Grok Media LLC. GrokTALK is brought to you by Grok Media LLC and GraniteGrok.com. And we do run on donations. We did just have a great, couple days, but that's just to get us through the end of this year and maybe into the beginning of next year. And we still need to raise money. And if you're the kind of person who has some, we would not object to sharing it with us. And if not, that's fine. Just read what we write, share it with your friends, put it on social media, and maybe one of them will donate, right? We're going to keep it going no matter what. So anyway, thank you again to everybody who has supported us in the present and the past and the future. And we'll keep putting it together and throwing up posts every day and trying to keep it neat and interesting and different. We are the only truly independent media in New Hampshire. We do not rely on any particular advertisers or donors of any stripe to support us. We rely on you guys. And as such, we can report any story we want. We don't have to hold back. And we got some things brewing coming up. We got a story on the VA that I've been trying to work on for a while. We've got a interesting situation going on with the local school board that I need to follow up on. and a couple of other things. If you have leads, a story, you have some insider information from your town that you would like very much to come out in the public, we can do that anonymously as long as I know who you are and I can prove who you are and we can confirm your information. We may have a story. So thanks again for spending whatever time you spent here today, and we'll try to keep it together and do it again next week.